Hi, I'm Jed Caddick,
And I'm Teresa Caddick.
and we own Terra Incognita Ecotours, ecotours.com. We started the company in 2005 after a trip to Rwanda for a birthday celebration, and we fell in love with the country of Rwanda and decided we wanted to start a travel company that could bring those kind of experiences to other people. The experiences we'd had, we wanted to share.
And really the most thrilling thing about this job and about this business is bringing those experiences of someone seeing wildlife for the first time in the wild and appreciating the value of that to the world, and just appreciating the nature and the wildness of it. It's very special.
And so currently, Ecotours, we lead trips in Brazil to the Pantanal, where we see jaguars. We go to Chile, specifically to Patagonia in southern Chile, where we have great opportunities to see pumas and other amazing wildlife, as well as incredible scenery. We do scheduled cruises to the Galapagos, and those are our three main destinations in South America. In Africa, we go to Kenya, Rwanda, to see the mountain gorillas. We go to Tanzania and we visit Gombe and the chimps that Jane Goodall's been studying for so many years.
And boy, how exciting it is to see someone for the first time when they come close to mountain gorillas in Rwanda and see their family groups and the excitement of seeing something like that for the first time.
We also do trips to Madagascar to see the lemurs and other amazing wildlife of Madagascar. And of course, we go to India to see the tiger.
So yeah, India's absolutely one of our favorites. Seeing the tiger, and the culture and the people and the religions. India is a very interesting, colorful, and beautiful. And their attention to the wildlife there, and the tigers especially, is very rewarding.
So in each destination, Chile, Brazil, Galapagos, Rwanda, Kenya, in every destination, including India, we always have a local guide, a local naturalist, because they bring so much flavor to the trip. They bring the knowledge of what it's like to grow up in that place, how the politics are, what the social norms are. They give us a window into each destination. We don't want to be travelers who fly in and fly out and don't really become immersed in the local culture, society, environment. And so we're always looking for naturalists and tour leaders who are well-spoken, well-educated, but can bring enthusiasm to each and every topic, not just the wildlife and the incredible wild places we visit, but give us some insight onto how the local people feel, think, experience life, because that's the beautiful tapestry of travel.
Even stories, family stories of and what their lives are like. It adds so much to a destination and to people's understanding of what a country is really like.
So one of our favorite little anecdotes that a naturalist or tour leader has brought to a trip that we've been on was once on a visit to Corbett National Park in northern India. Our local naturalist knew there was something just around the corner.
Our favorite naturalist.
Our favorite Indian naturalist. And he knew that just around the corner was a tiger because he'd heard it over the radio or he'd seen something. He knew something. But he started telling everyone in our little vehicle to smell. Can you smell that? I can smell a tiger. Do you smell it? And of course, as soon as we drove around the corner, there was a tiger laying in the middle of the road that he knew was going to be there. But he had everyone eating out of his hand for the rest of the trip.
And sniffing.
Because they thought he could smell the wildlife before we ever saw it. So that was one of our favorite local encounters.
Yeah. The local guide is one of the most critical things in a company like ours, where you see different things as you are going through the country, like a wedding ceremony. A local guide can tell you all about wedding ceremonies and the religions and different things like that. It's also their education, their knowledge of the wildlife and of the wildlife behavior, and being able to share that with our guests.
Yeah, so we really want a local guide to give us that local perspective, the insight into everything we're seeing, hearing, smelling. We want someone who's well educated, not just about the wildlife and the wild areas we visit, but about the culture, about the politics, about what it's like to grow up there. And we hope that they share their enthusiasm for all these things with our guests, so that our guests leave a destination with a much greater appreciation of the places we've visited. The local guide really is key. If we just come in and go out as foreigners, we won't get that immersion in everything about the destination.
They add so much to a trip. It's really very special.
My name's Toby Sinclair. I've been incredibly lucky and privileged to live in a fascinating part of the world. I've been based in Delhi since 1977. It wasn't my intention to come and die here, but that looks likely. I first came to India in 74, and I started working. I was traveled overland from the UK, which was an experience in itself. And then I started working for a company called Tiger Tops in Nepal, which had a lodge in Chitwan National Park. And I was based in the Kathmandu office for about 18 months. And then I moved on to Delhi in 77 to help people set up Mountain Travel India and the Tiger Tops India office, and had no intention of staying, but funny things happen and I'm here. And it's been a huge privilege and a huge, wonderful experience. I still think I learn something every day, whether it's from reading books, and there are plenty of those in my life, or traveling, or talking and listening to people. And one of the joys I get from escorting trips, guiding natural history trips, trips on art or architecture and archaeology, which is another passion of mine. I find history fascinating, and we ignore it at our peril. But the great privilege of those trips is meeting new people, sometimes making new friends that you remain in touch with. There's one group of birders from Alaska that I've traveled with now 5 times, and have been to travel with them in Alaska. And we're in constant touch, and have been for the last 14 years. So meeting new people, learning new things. On a recent trip, I was with a very senior scientist from NASA who worked on the Apollo space missions, moon missions, and continues to work at the sort of cutting edge of science and, I have to admit, defense contractors. But what he did talk about was fascinating and way above my head, but some of which I've managed to retain. So there's the privilege of meeting people and meeting new people and learning new things is part of the joy of guiding. Being based in Delhi, I've traveled widely across the region, South Asia. I've been lucky to work and travel into Pakistan on a couple of occasions, but mostly in Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and occasionally Bangladesh. And across this landscape, over the last 25 to 30 years, I've been working on the production of natural history films for BBC, for National Geographic, for Discovery, Animal Planet, PBS, etc. And that has also been a rare privilege because I've met people, I've worked with great people, I've been able to talk to scientists and conservationists around the world. So today, Harsha and Payal have asked me to talk a little bit about my experiences, and that I will like to share with you, along with the comments and insights from other people. So why do we need local guides? Why does someone like myself, someone who's lived in an area most of his life, someone who knows the area reasonably well, who's traveled extensively in the area, still need a local guide? Well, from experience, I can assure you that local guides are essential and incredibly useful. They back up the expedition leader in many ways. They have up-to-date local knowledge. I may be traveling to Bhutan and had not been there for 2 or 3 years. Even though I've traveled extensively and have read extensively and know the history and I can identify the birds and the bees and the whatever. But I'm not up to date with the little nuances of a culture as they evolve. And most importantly, I don't speak the language. I can get by in Bhutan because I speak a little Nepali from my time in Kathmandu. Likewise, I can get by in most of parts of northern India because I speak Hindi. But I can't get by in Sri Lanka or parts of southern India because I don't speak the languages. So when I travel in Sri Lanka, it's essential that I have a Sinhala speaking guide. But also because they understand the nuances of the culture, which might have escaped me or I might misinterpret. And sometimes local guides become much more than just someone employed for a week. They become friends. Nima in Bhutan used to take us into his home, or we would, at the last day of a tour, we'd get back to Thimphu and we'd meet his wife and his daughter at the main post office after lunch, after we'd been exploring the city. And his wife used to work in the post office, so she helped us buy some of the amazing Bhutanese stamps, and then we went off somewhere for a tea with the family and allowed the group to interact with someone else who's Bhutanese, someone that Nima felt comfortable with, someone that I felt comfortable with, and someone who was very warm and gracious. Likewise in Sri Lanka, working with one of our star local guides, Ramani Jayawardena. She works with companies in both Sri Lanka and in Switzerland because she's German speaking and she has family in Switzerland, so she understands them and understands all the local nuances. But in Sri Lanka, she's more than just a marine biologist accompanying a natural history tour. She's also a brilliant cook, so she explains the nuances of food. She gives us a demonstration. She helps the girls in the group discuss women's issues in the Sinhala culture. in Sri Lanka, in the politics and life of Sri Lanka today. So they add another dimension to this exercise. And she's also a fully qualified guide, so in fact guides on her own, quite with extreme competence. So a local guide is a sort of interface between an expedition leader who represents the company, who may have brought the group together on occasions, and the host country, the local culture. And it's the same if I was traveling in Bengal. I would appreciate having a Bengali guide with me, because I would then get the nuances of the culture and go to the sweet shops and know what to order, or know what's being put on our plate, and can explain it with greater detail. I may be able to identify something, but I can't tell you how it's made. And that is the skill and the addition that a local guide gives to a group. Also, from a natural history point of view, when I travel, I may know the birds, I know the animals, I know many of the trees, plus I have the sort of historical background. But I may not know the smaller critters, the dragonflies, the butterflies, because they're local. And that is surely is part of the story that we want to share with our guests. I think we've answered why we need a local guide, why they are important to the success of a tour or a day. I mean, you could be a local guide in a town like Agra, and you meet different people every day, and you have to tell the same story. But you have to remain enthused. You have to remain encouraging. You have to be able to teach. And you have to be able to listen and answer those questions. So you have to make it sound exciting. Many years ago, I was with a local guide in Ranthambore. And I was with a group, and we had to go into 2 vehicles because of the size of the group. And we'd heard tiger alarm calls, so we'd stopped. Then we got separated from the other vehicle. And they had also waited under a lovely banyan tree, of which Ranthambore has many, for about 15 minutes. And luckily, some of the group were very keen bird watchers, so they looked into the trees and they were seeing things, and they asked the local guide, "What's that bird over there?" And he replied, sort of rather grumpily, "Alubonda." The client didn't know what that was, and the client wrote it down because the guide realized what he had said, and when he was asked for the English name, couldn't give it. So the group, we came back to the building where we were staying, and we all met in the lobby, and I said, "How did you get on?" to one of the clients. He said, "Well, there was one bird that I saw which was really lovely, and I couldn't really work out what it was." And I asked the local guide, and he said that he got out his notebook and he sort of looked at something and said, "Alubonda. What is an alubonda?" So I was rather surprised. And then I called the local guide and said, "What was it that you saw? Why did you say alubonda?" And he said, "God, I was so bored. We were just sitting there, and they were watching birds, and I was waiting to show them a tiger, but the tiger didn't come out, and I was thinking of breakfast." We all get tired, we all get a little bored, but we have to do our best to overcome it, because we're being paid to do our best, and we're being paid to entertain, and we're being paid to inform, and we're being paid to interpret. So we must never lose sight of why we are there.
So now you saw the interview and you see how much value a local guide adds to even a tour leader's trip. Though they are expert in many things, when they use local guide, they look for a lot of qualities, and they're so happy using a local guide. With this, even local guides get to learn from expedition leaders, because some of the tour leaders or expedition leaders are expert in certain subjects, and they're very happy to share. So local guides also get benefited from learning from expedition leaders. I hope you enjoyed this video and this session.